Hello, my name is Remy. I'm the founder of the cat shelter FureverHome in Romania. Welcome to our small cat shelter where we house over 400 rescued cats and 89 dogs. And today is our first podcast. We are joined by a world-renowned doctor in parasitology, Dr. Professor Andrei Mihalca. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
We are here because the professor is doing a research regarding cat parasites, and we were happy to help because, of course, all our animals are from the street, and it is a serious medical issue that every cat owner should be concerned about. Doctor, could you please elaborate about your research and the study that you're currently doing?
Yeah, sure. We do research for over 20 years. We focused on many topics, I would say, in parasitology. More specifically, we are interested in parasites of carnivores, both domestic and wild, including, of course, dogs and cats. Currently, we are performing several studies on different parasites of domestic cats, worldwide, I would say. We have running projects in different parts of the world on tropical parasites, but also on local parasites in Romania. And specifically, the reason why we are here today, together with part of my team, is to examine the cats for a very poorly known parasite in cats, at least, which is called Eucoleus aerophilus, which produces the respiratory capillariasis in cats. And our main focus, of course, is to validate a treatment for this parasite.
That is great. This is something that our cats would definitely use. We have many problems with respiratory diseases. Sometimes they are hard to diagnose, sometimes they are bacterial, they can be viral, or like in these cases, rarely it can be a parasite for which there is no cure currently. We would like also to talk about our shelter, and since we have a doctor in veterinary sciences, it would be great to show our many cats that we take care of. We have many sick ones, and we hope to collaborate with such professionals on long term to find cures and treatment for all our animals. Doctor, what would you say is something that you are first, let's say that today was the first day we met, and
Exactly.
You first saw our shelter online, and what is your experience so far? What do you think about our rescue efforts?
First of all, it's of course it's always something which I encourage. Animals, I have always the opinion that animals should not be ownerless on the streets. First of all, because of their welfare, including health issues. Second, because of the threat these animals pose to human health, to animal health, to wildlife, and so on. As we know, cats are extremely prolific hunters. So cats which are, let's say, free in the environment, they are able to kill a huge number of birds, of lizards. So I think, on the other hand, cats are extremely neglected as stray animals compared to dogs. For this particular research project we are doing, it was not easy to find cat shelters. There are very few, not only in Romania, in general, globally. The vast majority of shelters or rescue units, let's not call them only shelters, they are designed mainly for dogs, as we know. Because dogs, at least apparently, they are a bigger problem, the stray dogs, because they are more visible, I would say. But all the research has shown that actually there are significantly more stray cats than dogs. But they are more shy, more or less difficult to observe. They don't seem to bother the people because they don't bite like dogs and so on. They don't tend to gather in groups, so they're less visible, and this is probably the reason why dogs are mainly targeted by all these rescue association and NGOs. So I think your effort is quite remarkable, and probably you should be proud of what you're doing. And I think the conditions or the housing conditions which cats have here are excellent. Yeah, they have access outside. You cannot see that probably. We are going to film also outside, so the people will see outside. It's a very nice, huge, I would say, yard with a lot of trees. Cats do not have the possibility to escape, which is also very good for several reasons, including for their own safety, because many cats are killed by cars. So here they simply cannot go outside. The setting is located in a very rural, nice area at the border of Romania with Hungary. The air is very clean, so I think the cats are quite happy here. They climb the trees, so they are quite happy, I would say. Of course, not all of them. Unfortunately, some of them which are collected from the streets, they come with different health problems, so they require a special attention, at least for a while. And this is done indoors, because to allow them outside, it can probably aggravate their situation, or they can be in contact with the healthy cats, which is again not a very advisable issue.
Yes, this is why we welcome and we love to have visitors like yourself, because we try all our efforts to take care of, like right now we have plus 50 sick cats, and that is the main problem. So we have hundreds of healthy ones, but taking care of the sick cats is definitely something that uses the most resources, time, and it's something that we definitely need to improve on. And this is one of the efforts we're trying to manage for the future, to have a clinic for them. As some of you probably know, our shelter we have to drive 100 kilometers to our closest vet. And this is a very big problem, having so many sick cats. All of them are from the street, from very poor conditions, but most are healthy, which is a good thing. But the ones that are sick, they need our most attention. I would like to introduce our shelter. Can we do a small tour?
Yeah, sure.
And see the rest of the cats. So this is the quarantine room. This is where we keep some of our sickest cats. The most sick ones are in pens. And this room is specifically made to keep them safe, keep them in a clean, warm environment. Some of them are very feral, so this is too crowded, as a doctor would probably agree. But unfortunately, these are the only conditions we have. And some are with respiratory infections, some are new, and this is something very important, a quarantine. Doctor, what would you say is most important as a quarantining animal that you bring off the street?
Of course, the quarantine, it's a compulsory preventive measure. First of all, because whenever you bring a cat from outside, from the street, of course it carries a lot of pathogens, parasites, infectious agents such as viruses, bacteria, not necessarily being sick. Yeah, some of them can be simple carriers, and they can transmit, of course, the infection to the cats which are already here in the shelter. So quarantine, it's a very important step of any animal facility, I would call. And then, of course, quarantine conditions depend a lot on the specific conditions of the facility. Ideally, a quarantine should be individual for each cat. And the second reason why quarantine is important is also to monitor the health of the cat which was brought. Yeah, because for in the first days, because of it's a lot of stress. Imagine it's a cat coming from the street where she was living in different conditions, in different social structures with other cats or maybe alone. And here you just put it in contact with a lot of new cats, stray for the cat. And this is a very stressful event. So it should also allow the adaptation, the accommodation of the animal with the local conditions, with the other cats, until new social bonds are made. During this quarantine period, of course, it's very important to follow certain rules. First of all, the cat should be clinically examined by a veterinary professional. It should be tested probably for different infectious and parasitic agents. And last but not least, it should be dewormed or treated, let's say, to use a more general term, to be treated against parasites and to be vaccinated against preventable diseases of cats, of felines. And only after all these measures are done and the cat is retested and re-diagnosed, it can be mixed with the big group of cats. And of course, these measures should continue later on. It's very important also during this quarantine period to be aware that the stress of introduction, because it's a stress, to be honest, for the cats when you bring them from their environment. Because of the stress, because of the parasites they carry, their immune system is not very responsive and very strong. So I would suggest, of course, during the quarantine period, first, before the vaccination, to treat the animal against the parasite, to increase a little bit, to feed it well. So by the time you vaccinate them, the antibody response which is developed against the vaccine to be the strongest possible. Because what most shelter owners do, of course, when they bring the animals, immediately they vaccinate, they deworm, they neuter, everything in a very short time, which of course creates additional stress, because neutering also, it's a surgical procedure, of course. It's essential to prevent, because in such a shelter, if you keep the cats non-neutered, it would be a disaster probably.
Of course.
So neutering, of course, it's a surgical intervention which again induces stress to the cat. And all the stress-related events, they decrease significantly the response to the vaccine. Yeah? So vaccine should be done on a healthy, unstressed cat. Yeah? That's a rule which I would suggest for the quarantine.
What would you suggest the period between deworming and vaccinating?
It depends, of course, because cats, they have many parasites. We can discuss also about the parasites of cats, because as all the carnivores, the parasite diversity in cats is quite big, probably among the biggest among all the domestic animals, I would say. In dogs and cats is the biggest parasite diversity. I would suggest a window of several days or even more, depending, of course, on which parasite we are considering. Because some parasites require multiple treatments. It's not enough to have only one. So I would suggest, of course, to consider the risks, because to keep the cat unvaccinated in an environment with hundreds of cats, it's another risk for the cat. So sometimes we may require a very rapid vaccination, even though we know that maybe it's not so strong, the response. But if we consider the cat is at risk of getting other infectious diseases, it should be vaccinated anyway as fast as possible. So these things should be quite well balanced from case to case. I will not make a very general recommendation, but I would recommend like a week between the antiparasitic treatment and the vaccination. And definitely neutering should be done at a later stage. First of all, because also anesthesia,
of course,
is quite risky procedure, mainly if a cat has associated conditions, including some parasites, which can increase the risk of incidents, I would say, or even more severe situations during anesthesia. So deworming, it's a standard procedure also before neutering.
And what would you suggest in such a shelter where we have so many in one place? How often should we give anti-parasite?
It depends a lot. It depends a lot. This is a very complex question. Of course, we can discuss a lot about it. First of all, there are several types of parasites in cats. There are the parasites which can be transmitted directly from a cat to another by contact, by the environment, by the feces mainly. Some of them, like external parasites, as the fleas, lice, mange, can be transmitted from a cat to cat by direct contact, or fungi also. They develop microsporosis quite commonly. So these are parasites that are transmitted from cat to cat. And in this case, of course, it is essential that all the cats are dewormed regularly. Normally, this deworming or this antiparasitic treatment is being done routinely at a certain interval. I cannot tell you if it's a 1 month, a 2 months, a 3 months. It depends a lot on the drug we are using. It depends a lot on the local epidemiological situation. It depends a lot on the age of the cat and so on. So it's a very, but this is why, of course, each shelter should have a professional veterinarian who is, even if not employed, at least should have a contract, which is also the case here. Of course, every shelter should have. So I think the veterinarian is the one who, case by case, can decide what's better for the cat. Because I know there are a lot of expenses, and the good antiparasitic drugs are quite costly.
Much more expensive, yes.
So we always should balance, because these things are important. It's important to use a good quality product. I would not advise, even if you use it more rarely, than using a cheap, inefficient one very, very regularly. Because finally, using an antiparasitic drug very often, it can induce, of course, stress for you. Again, stress. I always stress the stress because all this veterinary nobody likes. Even us, we don't like to take drugs. So cats are the same. They are not very happy to take the drugs. We should also be careful not to use mainly in cats off-label products, because I have seen this situation as a vet. I have seen many situations when owners, just to try to save money, for instance, they have a dog and they use for the dog a drug, and they still have some after giving to the dog, and then they give it to the cat, and the cat may die, because there are many drugs for dogs which contain very toxic compounds or drugs for the cats, such as pyrethroids, which are extremely dangerous for the cats. So always use just drugs which are registered for cats. And because, of course, shelters, they tend to get resources from all the possible sources, including drugs and so on. And this should be very, very carefully considered. But of course, again, the vet is the one who is, even by law, the one who's allowed to do the antiparasitic treatment. And vets usually know this. The biggest mistakes and the biggest risk is when non-professionals are doing these procedures. That's simply as it is. Right.
Well, we have a vet, but she's very far away, so we buy the drugs from there, and we have to administer them here. I am a vet technician, but of course I welcome vets here, and the more experts see our sick cats, the better. We never try to cheap out on the medicine or on treatment, but unfortunately we simply are overwhelmed by so many animals, and finding a solution that is good for everybody is very hard. We almost never get sponsored by the big producers of, like you said, the expensive but good medicines. So it's we definitely try to give them the best things possible. And all the cats that we bring off the streets, they are full of fleas and parasites, and that's the first thing we do. Yes, we definitely never had an outbreak of fleas, which is a good thing. Or the internal parasites are a different story. Those are harder, like you said. it requires
First of all,
multiple doses.
it's more difficult to diagnose, because fleas everybody can diagnose,
Exactly,
because you see them on the animal. And internal parasites they cannot be diagnosed just by professionals, of course, in a lab.
Sometimes you don't even see in the feces, right?
Don't see, because the most stages which are eliminated by the animal are microscopic. So you need to perform special laboratory techniques to diagnose them. And the cats, they have many internal parasites. If you want, of course, we can discuss about them and which are the most important parasites of cats. Mainly in shelter, because your question was related to which are, of course, I would start with the external parasites. Fleas, as you mentioned, are extremely common, and it's very difficult to control them. So congratulations for managing to control them in such a setting, which is so full of nice cats. Microsporosis, which is not a true parasite, it's a fungus.
We had that.
Microsporosis, on the other hand, it's not a significant disease, so only a few cats develop more serious clinical signs.
We had many kittens.
In kittens, usually it's self-curing. The problem is fleas also, but not so much probably, but mainly with microsporosis, it's a zoonotic infection. So it can be transmitted to humans, so to the caretakers in the shelter, to the vet, why not? I never had it.
Low immunity, but sadly, luckily.
Then another zoonotic infection of concern is related to toxoplasma. As you probably know, cats are quite good hosts for toxoplasma. Though cats are not the most important direct source of infection for humans. Humans usually get it from other intermediate hosts, such as raw meat or undercooked meat. Still, care should be taken for the prevention of zoonotic infection of humans, mainly women. As you know, toxoplasma, mainly in pregnant women, can produce, but of course, this is something which probably is not very often the case, that you have pregnant.
Here at the shelter, no.
Not yet,
Thankfully.
Then cats also have other zoonotic infection, not only parasitic. For instance, one of the most common, probably also neglected, it's the so-called cat scratch disease, which is caused by a bacterium which is called Bartonella henselae, which is transmitted from cats are asymptomatic generally, and it's transmitted from a cat to a cat by the fleas. So cats are reservoirs, they are usually asymptomatic reservoirs. Fleas, when they bite the cat, they get it in the body, and then when they fleas, they produce the feces, which is always in the fur of the animal. When the cat scratch, they get this bacteria under the claws. So when they scratch somebody, and it can produce quite nasty symptoms in humans. It's a hidden disease, and sometimes it's very difficult to diagnose because of the symptoms, which can be sometimes atypical, such as endocarditis or lymph node inflammation or other symptoms. So, of course, this is not the job of the vet, but we should inform always the owners or the people which come into contact with cats, including yourself.
Of course, you get scratched all the time.
Many times, so it can be an issue because cats are carriers of Bartonella.
Yes, that's very important to know.
And they have internal parasites, of course, which are many. They're not so zoonotic from cats, only very few. For instance, recently cats were shown to be important reservoirs for Echinococcus multilocularis in some Central European countries, but they should feed on infected mammals, including rodents or micromammals, which cannot be excluded even in these conditions. Although the foxes are the main reservoirs for the rodents, still cats which hunt rodents, they can get infected, and it's a very serious, potentially deadly disease in humans. And most dewormers for cats do not act against Echinococcus, because you should use a specific drug which is called praziquantel, which is not present in all the commercial products for cats.
That's good to know. Should we see the other shelter, the rest of the rooms? Doctor, you mentioned that the parasites affect the immunity of the host. How does that work?
It works actually in both ways. There are studies which show that in certain instances, I would say, they affect the immunity positively. So the contact of parasites with the host induces a boost, let's say, in the immune response, mainly in young animals, even in humans. It is well known. There are some studies showing that parasites can be used in immune-mediated intestinal diseases and so on, but generally parasites, mainly heavy infections, they induce a decrease in the immune response. Of course, this is happening by various mechanisms. Yeah? First of all, we have to know that immunity in general is specific and non-specific, which can work both by cellular-mediated components such as cells or by antibodies, and all to produce all these molecules which are components of the immune system. Of course, you need a lot of basic compounds such as amino acids to build proteins which are part of the antibodies. You need a lot of other components, and if parasites, for instance, are present in the intestinal tract, they can influence the absorption of the metabolites. This is called the spoliation effect of parasites. They themselves induce immune response against themselves by the host, which a little bit uses or overuses the resources of the immune system. They can affect, of course, the production of antibodies in the liver and many other things. There are parasites which infect cells of the cat, which are responsible for the immune response, such as the toxoplasma, for instance, which can infect macrophages, and macrophages themselves are then distracted from their role. So there are many things, yeah, which can lead to a decrease of immunity. The situation is quite complex. I'm not an expert in immunology, definitely, but this is very well known that the parasites can influence both positively and negatively the immune responses. The presence of parasites also induces generally an increase in certain white blood cells, such as the eosinophiles, which are also increasing, for instance, in certain types of cancer, or they're increasing in allergies. So all these immune mechanisms are closely related to each other, and certainly parasites have an influence on the physiological balance of the immune system.
Right. Could we talk a little bit about our sickest cats? So
Sure.
These are our containment pens. These are cats with infectious peritonitis. I know it's not in the parasitology department, but it's something that we always like to discuss with experts, as in how we can better improve the conditions, how we can try to fundraise for a vet clinic to bring in more experts to have them diagnosed and treated by experts. We would gladly not do the treatments ourselves,
Sure.
but sadly the conditions are not the optimal. So these are some of our sickest cats. Some are better, some do respond to the treatment, which are antivirals, very expensive ones, antibiotics, and I hope the study you are doing now will reveal something that we can also improve in our cats.
Yeah, sure. We can offer, of course, advice always against the principles of preventive medicine. Unfortunately, infectious peritonitis, it's a very serious disease. It's a viral disease. Yeah. It's a very serious disease of cats. Not all the infected cats, as you probably know, with this virus, they develop the disease. Only
Symptoms,
certain cats develop the disease. So infection is not the same with disease, which is very important. And it is one of the diseases for which we do not normally use a vaccine for the prevention, mainly because of this situation. It's a severe, it can be potentially fatal. Yeah, I know I have many friends which lost cats, even well-cared cats, because of infectious peritonitis. As you mentioned, of course, the treatment of choice, it's an antiviral drug, which is quite expensive. And unfortunately, even by using the expensive drug, we cannot guarantee a 100% cure. It depends a lot on the cat, individual cat. It depends a lot on the stage of the disease when we start the treatment. It depends also on some other concurrent infection, like for instance feline leukemia virus, or for which there is a preventative vaccine, or the feline infectious, the feline immunodeficiency virus, which again is not preventable too much. It's very similar to AIDS in humans, and unfortunately many stray cats are infected with the feline immunodeficiency virus, which itself causes serious situations related to other diseases.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you. We've talked about a lot of sick animals and sad things. Let's talk about some light topics. I understand that your work of research takes you all around the world. Could you tell us more about your travels?
Sure. Yeah, I travel a lot. Have to be maybe too much. I travel for both professional reasons and for my hobby, which is wildlife photography. And my specialty, I would say, in research mainly, is to work with different animals, but mainly with domestic dogs and cats, but also wild animals from sub-Saharan Africa. I do a lot of studies on tropical parasites. We recently finished a similar study, which we do here with you, but it was done in the Caribbean with my colleague Andrea, who has been to St. Kitts and Nevis, where we did a similar clinical trial on Mammomonogamus, which is a tropical respiratory parasite of cats. Also Joanna, who is here with me, she also we did together some research in Zimbabwe, for instance, in sheltered dogs and cats from Zimbabwe, and also with the parasites of dogs from the nomadic tribes from northern Kenya, in the Samburu, Turkana region. Recently, we also ran some clinical trials there for different companies, but we also do regular research, not only clinical trials, in collaboration with many teams around the world. We had a quite extensive project also in the Galapagos on some parasites of dogs which are transmitted to the endangered sea lions from Galapagos, because dogs are also important reservoirs, and cats as well, for diseases of wild animals. Yeah, so this is a field of medicine which is called conservation medicine, meaning to apply knowledge from veterinary medicine with the purpose of species conservation. So we have many collaboration. We work a lot, for instance, in Central African Republic. Again, we studied the vector transmission, or the possible vectors which are able to transmit diseases from humans to lowland gorillas. We studied parasites of dolphins, for instance, in the Black Sea. We studied parasites of reptiles when I was young, and many other things. I don't even remember now in such a short time everything what we did. In Romania, we also have some research projects related to conservation medicine, of course, with applications from parasitology. We work closely with some large nature conservation NGOs on the reintroduction of the European bison to Romania, and because it was considered to be a critically endangered species in the past. Now its status is just nearly threatened, but still they have many parasites which they acquire from domestic animals, maybe from cows, from sheep, but also from other wild herbivores, such as deer, and some of them they can impact seriously their health. So we work closely with these groups to monitor the health of bisons, to European bisons, to apply measures if necessary, at least to understand what the risks are for them. We also work a lot with parasites of wild carnivores in Romania. We are working, of course, with different groups in collecting samples from wild animals, different types, mainly carcasses we collect from the roadkills, because it's very important, it's to understand exactly what are the diseases transmitted by these wild animals to humans, to domestic animals, and vice versa. So this is more or less our field.
Great, thank you very much. So this is our other cat house. The shelter, the cats have two homes. This is the smaller wood cabin, and we also have sick cats here. Some of them are new and some of them are recovering. So doctor, one question would be, how would you say an NGO or research study like yours gets funding or grants? How did you see in your experience, in your career, that one can find funding for projects that are either for shelter or for research? In Romania, we both know that it's almost zero, and hence we're doing the interview in English. And so what would you recommend, and what was your experience with grants and funding for such projects?
Sure, of course, it's a very big difference between getting a grant, which is generally associated with research, and getting funds to maintain, let's say, or to keep an animal shelter for welfare issues. Of course, the sources of acquiring this grant is totally different. This is a real setting, it's a real situation of real help needed for the welfare, for the health of the cats and of course of the society. While the research grants are based generally on an idea, hypothesis, research question, which of course it should also be beneficial and it should have an impact on the society in general at all its levels, including the animals, which are also part of our society, our human society, meaning domestic animals. To get such funds, it's definitely something there is no universal solution. It's like asking me what's the secret to win the lottery.
Right,
it's a matter of course, sometimes opportunity, sometimes luck, but also doubled by a lot of effort. So the more you play, the more chances to win, I would compare it. Of course, it's totally different because generally grants and funds are acquired based on a competition, which is evaluated by experts, by opponents, by critics, which always try to rank the proposals which they receive and then to fund just the most important or interesting, the best ones. So getting grants is definitely not easy at all. Yeah? Some of them are funded by the government. Some of them are funded by international governments, such as the EU, or even more globally by different organizations. There are a lot of NGOs which fund research, which benefit, of course, their interest. In conservation, for instance, we had grants with conservation NGOs. We had grants with animal welfare NGOs. You can have grants with different type of organizations and groups. But generally, it's not a very easy task. As you know, there are more and more people requiring grants. There are less and less money for research globally because of the global political situation. You know, all these conflicts which are also around us, they take a lot of resources, both financial resources but also human resources. So always during this crisis or almost crisis situations, the usual sufferer is always research. So it's the easiest to cut money from the budget of a country for research or for grants in general. You know very well the situation, and you're very close here also with the border with Ukraine. A lot of animals there have been abandoned because of the war, because of course people, we cannot judge them too much, because people, they care about their own life and their children's life, probably more than about their animal. Of course, all the efforts which have been done by NGOs in Ukraine before the war have been basically stopped, because simply these are the situations, of course, which are the first visible. You cannot stop running a hospital, but maybe it's easier for the society to stop caring about the stray animals. So I know that many animals ended up in Romania from Ukraine. Romania, it's our largest border here. It's with Ukraine, so a lot of animals. I'm sure you also have.
We have 28 cats. From
28
Ukraine,
cats. You
from
see,
Odessa.
even without
Right.
telling me,
Yes.
I was almost sure that you have cats from Ukraine, and I think many Romanian groups are in the same situation. I have veterinarians, friends, mainly from this region, which actively travel to Ukraine, even to conflict areas, to treat the animal there and so on. So of course we need Romania. It's in a lucky situation still. It's very safe here, so we can still afford to get. But of course we always need the money, as you asked. Yeah. So I think it's very important to get donations. I know it's not easy. Donations are asked by anybody. Yeah? So the donors should be very careful how they spend their money. And I think this is where an NGO like yours should really focus their efforts to. It's a marketing. Basically, I will not call it a business because obviously it's not a business, but the principles which applied for attracting the money, the marketing, the visibility, all these things are very, very similar to what's being done in a business.
Yes, it's about credibility. Many of our supporters have said. We don't do marketing. We just try to make our credibility shown in the things that we do, in our actions, and that's why I was asking about funding grants. Hopefully, in the future, our dream is to make a clinic, a hospital, to give better conditions to the sickest cats, and hopefully we can collaborate. You being in the research area, and we trying to help animals. I think. Somehow, if we'll ever manage to have a modern hospital, we can definitely help many more animals.
Sure, hospital. There are examples. Yeah, it's not something new. There are many veterinary clinics around the world which are dedicated exclusively to a service for the society. So they are not charging the people. They are treating their own animals, or they do veterinary care or veterinary interventions, including neutering, for different targets. I would say socially disadvantaged groups. There are many, including in Romania. There are a lot of socially disadvantaged groups, people which love animals but they cannot afford to care properly for them. And these clinics, I think, they're very important. On the other hand, I know it's a very challenging task. It requires much more effort, not only to create it and to build it, but mainly to maintain it. Yeah, because a veterinary clinic, of course, requires a different type of staff. You cannot run these things with volunteers, definitely. No. So it's like a business. You have to employ the people. You have to be sure you have a salary for at least the next. A few months for them, because you cannot change the team too often. So I think the idea of veterinary clinic is very good, mainly because I know in this region of the country there is no such clinic. There are few in Romania which they have, and it's easier to attract money if you have a clinic. On the other hand, because all these veterinary clinics, which are doing the social veterinary medicine, how I call it, they are able to attract sometimes larger grants. Well, it's not easy even there, but still there are some. They're able to attract larger grants. They're able to get more credibility. They're able to attract bigger funders. So don't rely on I don't know, 20 euros from somebody who loves cats, and it's nothing. Yeah, it's very important, of course, but these things they usually run with large donors.
Right. Well, this interview was very eye-opening. We learned a lot about what we should do to keep our cats free of parasites. What's important to always ask your vet. And we are very thankful for such a wonderful guest. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
It's a very nice place.
Thank you. So we're going to do a Q&A segment where our followers or supporters can ask questions either about the shelter or about our guest, regarding the topics we talked about. This is our granny. She's a really, really old cat, and we're gonna put her down now. So the first question is from Lorenzo Cupelli. You seem to have maybe you could ask about if reducing the spread of disease in cats could potentially avoid passing some pathogens to humans. COVID comes to mind.
Yeah, sure. I will not discuss the COVID and the cat issue. COVID is a very debated topic. It's always the opinions, and I'm not an expert on COVID, so I will refrain to answering the more general part of the question. Of course, as I mentioned before during our discussion today, cats are and dogs together, they are extremely important reservoirs of diseases for humans. So that's the reason why they should not be allowed to be ownerless on the streets. So definitely reducing the the number of infected cats in general, by all means. I mean, treating them, preventing them, getting them from the streets and keeping them safely somewhere in an amazing shelter like yours. It's very big outside. You have probably seen already through the camera these things. This is a very important issue. So yeah, one of the easiest ways to prevent human infection is to control it in the animal source.
Right. And another question from our supporter Anne Milbury. What indoor parasites, if any, are something to watch out for with cats?
Yeah, it's true. There are many parasites which are found only in outdoor cats or in cats which have access outdoors. There are many parasites which can survive easily in indoor cats, exclusively indoor cats. However, they are more easy to control. Yeah? I would consider, for instance, the fleas. The fleas can easily survive indoors if the population of fleas in the household where the cat is not properly managed. Yeah? And when I mean fleas or flea population control, I don't mean only the control on the cat with anti-flea products, but also in the environment. Yeah? Because if you treat a cat, fleas survive in the environment. Actually, I always tell to my students, and this is very well known, that 95% of the flea population is not on the animals, it's in the environment. Yeah? The fleas, only the adult fleas are parasitic. All the immature stages, including eggs, larvae, pupae and everything, they are in the environment. Yeah? So if you don't treat properly the environment, the cats and the dogs, yeah, they get reinfected. Another parasite which can easily survive indoors is Schistoisospora. It's a parasite of the digestive tract, which can survive indoors. However, in general, in cats, it is considered to be a parasite which is transmitted by rodents. But to be honest, also cats which are indoors, they can have access to rodents as well. Another very common parasite of cats is the mange or the one causing the mange of the ear, the auricular mange, which is called otodectes, and it is very common also in indoor cats. Lice also, Felicola, it's a parasite which can easily survive indoors, and some others, yeah, but probably these are the most important ones.
Thank you very much. If you'll have more questions, let us know and we'll answer them in the next video.